All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, The Lonesome Crown, all published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Elmore Leonard, The Big Bounce. If you don't know who Elmore Leonard is, well, he's Quentin Tarantino has said Elmore Leonard is my favorite writer of all time. In fact, if you ever watched the movie Jackie Brown, it was based off of an Elmore Leonard novel. Now, Elmore Leonard wrote this in 1969. It was his first ever thriller. Before that, Elmore Leonard was known for writing a lot of Western novels. Like he wrote 3:10 to Yuma, he wrote The Bounty Hunters, he wrote a lot of Western novels that were turned into movies. And then he was like, the Western genre was sort of growing stale for him, and so he wanted to write some crime thrillers. He started with The Big Bounce. Now get this, folks, just for all you writers out there, get this. Elmore Leonard was a best-selling Western novelist. He decided to write a crime novel, The Big Bounce. Nobody wanted it. He was a best-selling author, and not one publisher would take it. They're like, nope, we don't want your crime novel, dude. This novel was rejected 84 times. 84 times. Finally found a publisher. Went on to become a big hit. Twice made into movies. In 1960s, when it came out, it was made into a movie starring Ryan O'Neal. Then it was recently remade in 2004, starring Owen Wilson, Morgan Freeman, Charlie Sheen, Willie Nelson, the country singer. I mean, it had a big cast. I don't know if the movie did that well in the box office. I never saw it. I never saw either movie. But that's just a little aside for all of you wannabe writers out there. You can be a super famous writer, and it doesn't guarantee that any publisher is going to want to publish your next book. I mean, Elmore Leonard here is proof of that. Rejected 84 times before finally someone said, oh yeah, we'll take a chance on this Western writer's mystery. Well, just do it. See what happens. It became a big hit, and it launched his career as one of the greatest crime novelists of all time. In fact, so great that he inspired everything Quentin Tarantino does. So if you're a fan of Quentin Tarantino, you need to start reading Elmore Leonard. I have got all of the Elmore Leonard books in my collection, including his Westerns. So I'll just pan down here and show you. That's my entire Elmore Leonard collection. All of his books, including his Westerns. Many of his books have been made into movies, like Jackie Brown, 3:10 to Yuma, Get Shorty. I don't know if you remember Get Shorty with John Travolta. That's a whole bunch of them. Let's talk about the cover. That seems like your basic crime novel cover. What can you do? I do like the R's in the Elmore Leonard. I like, and then the little M. Very, they stylized it a little. They stylized it a little. What's this book about? Well, it's, if you've seen a Tarantino movie, I mean, the dialogue and everything, the setups, the weird plots, the weird plot devices, the quirky characters, the dialogue, everything Tarantino does comes from Elmore Leonard's. He really pulls everything out of Elmore Leonard's mystery novels and puts them in his movies. He really does. Both his Westerns and his Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill, all of those from his mysteries. And then Django Unchained, The Hateful Eight. They're straight knockoffs of Elmore Leonard's Westerns. Anyway. I love Tarantino. I love Tarantino. So The Big Bounce, what's it about? It's about a guy named Jack Ryan. No, not the Jack Ryan from the Tom Clancy books, a different Jack Ryan. This Jack Ryan, the star of these books, and there's a few of the Elmore Leonard books that have Jack Ryan in them. So he's a reoccurring character in a lot of the books. Jack Ryan is this guy who wanted to play Major League Baseball. He just wasn't quite good enough. So in his sort of shamefulness for not making the big leagues, he decides to become a thief. As one does. When you don't make the major leagues, what else can you do? I'm going to be a burglar. I'll just be a burglar. So he becomes like a tough guy burglar, right? And he beats a dude up with a baseball bat because he's good with a bat. Not good enough to make the major leagues, but he can beat the out of the guy with a bat, right? He can tune a dude up with a baseball bat. And so he tunes a dude up with the baseball bat in one of the, because he's not a nice guy, really. Tunes a dude up with the baseball bat. It's on video. It's caught on videotape. And this lawman named Mr. Majestic, by the way, there's a whole other series of Elmore Leonard books called Mr. Majestic about this lawman, Mr. Majestic. So a lot of the Elmore Leonard books tie together. Although each one is a standalone novel, a lot of characters from all of the books sort of walk through all the other books, if that makes sense. So Mr. Majestic, he's a lawman, and he sees that this dude is good with a baseball bat. He's like, I could use this guy, even though he's a lawman, a justice of the peace. He's not a good guy himself, and he's like, I could use this Jack Ryan who can wield a baseball bat like a mother. And I can use him as a tough guy to do some shit for me because I'm a crooked cop myself, and I need a tough guy like that. And so he hooks up with Jack Ryan, and then just two bad dudes hooked up, right, doing bad things. And then there's but my favorite character was Nancy, the teenage girl who, she began her life as a babysitter, and she was a con man her own self. Just from the get-go, she was a con man. She's a hot little teenage chick babysitter, and she would run this scam where she would babysit for rich people, and then she would start to slowly make advances onto the husband, right? And this is one of my favorite parts of reading this book, was reading those scenes where Nancy is just slowly sort of seducing these men, and she's just a teenager, right? And they know that it's wrong to get with her, but she hot, and so of course it's a Tarantino novel, so everything goes sideways from there. And this girl just working these dudes, and it's a con. It's just a big con. She's just setting them up because they all succumb to her charms. And she's just setting them up. So it's just, this book is sort of just a really wacky crime caper, sort of like, everything Tarantino does. And everything Elmore Leonard does. This is a wacky little crime caper involving these three people: Jack Ryan, Mr. Majestic, and Nancy, the super seductive teenage girl. And it's just a fun thing. Everybody's a scoundrel. I love watching the scenes play out between them and the dialogue between everybody. It's just great fun. Elmore Leonard, his first ever foray into mystery novels was a success, and then he ended up writing like 30 more, becoming one of the greatest crime writers of our generation, until he passed away, sadly, a few years ago. And the mainest man that inspired Quentin Tarantino, if you're into that kind of thing. So go out and get yourself an Elmore Leonard novel. It really doesn't matter which one you start with, because they're all standalone and they're all fantastic. But this is the very first one he wrote. And it's dynamite. I give it a good 8.5 out of 10.